The sky burned red dot at first. Seren Vale thought it was a storm. The horizon was glowing like fire, and the clouds above the jungle looked like they were bleeding. She stood outside her small home on the edge of Verenine's village, her hand shielding, her eyes. Then she heard it deep, thunderous booms. Not thunder, not wind. Something else. She dropped the bundle of herbs she'd collected and ran. The ground shook. Trees trembled. Birds screamed and scattered. Shadow swept over her as something massive passed above the treetops. A ship long, black, and silent, except for the low hum it left behind. It was heading straight toward the village center. "Mom," she shouted, sprinting toward the square Yalan. She pushed through the undergrowth, thorns scratching her. Arms, feet slipping on damp earth. Her heart slammed in her chest, faster than her legs could move. She didn't stop. When she reached the village, the world was already on fire. Houses burned like paper. The market stalls were gone, just ash and rubble. Bodies lay on the ground, unmoving. A small hand reached up from behind a collapsed wall. She ran to it, dragging broken wood aside, but it was too late. A child. Eyes open, not blinking. Seren choked on smoke and grief. Overhead, more ships hovered. Sleek and black like blades, they moved in quiet rows, scanning, watching. Then the bombs came. Blue flashes fell from the sky like shooting stars. Everything they touched exploded in white-hot flame. She ducked behind a burned-out shack, heart pounding. The Cums Tower at the center of town lit up in a bright blue pulse, then burst into nothing but steel dust. That tower was their only long range. Signal back to Earth. Gone in seconds. She had to find her brother, Yolan, she screamed. "Answer me." No reply. She ran to her family's home on the east side of the village. The roof had caved in, but the back room, his room, was still standing. She climbed over the rubble, smoke stinging her eyes, and pushed open the half-melted door. He was gone. His pack was missing. So was his boots. He had run. Seren spun around and dashed back into the chaos. If he had survived the first wave, he would be heading to the jungle, the hiding spot they used as kids. Another bomb hit close. She flew off her feet and landed hard, her head ringing. Dust filled the air. Something sharp had cut her leg, but she didn't stop. Blood soaked her pants. As she limped through fire and falling debris behind her, she heard voices, clicking, inhuman sounds, like bones cracking in rhythm. The aliens were on the ground now, the Zyraxi. She had never seen them before. Only read rumors.
Oh.
No one knew what they looked like, only that they never talked, never negotiated, and never left survivors. But as she crawled behind a stone wall, she saw one tall, gray skin, no mouth, 4 black eyes. Armor that shimmered like oil in sunlight, it moved with strange grace, scanning the area, holding a rifle that looked like a living creature. It turned its head. She held her breath. A scream broke through the smoke from across the square. A woman begging, child crying. The alien fired once. Silence. Seren's blood turned to ice. This wasn't war. This was cleansing, erasing. She had to move. Now, she crept along the ruined buildings, heading for the tree line. Every few steps, she looked back, hoping, praying to see Yalan, but only flames and death stared back. When she finally reached the jungle, she dove into the trees and didn't stop running. Branches whipped her face. Her lungs burned. Her leg throbbed with pain. But she ran deeper, past the old water spring, through the vine maze they used to play in, to the hidden cave. Beneath the rock arch, she stumbled inside, collapsed, and let darkness take her. Time passed. She didn't know how long. When she woke, the jungle was quiet, too quiet. She crawled to the cave entrance. Smoke still rose in the distance. The sky was no longer red, but pale orange. The ships were gone. Seren stepped outside, her legs shaking. She couldn't cry. Not yet. She walked back to the edge of the village. Nothing moved. No sound. Only wind brushing ash across the ruins. Bodies were everywhere. Some burned beyond recognition. Some untouched, frozen in fear. No signs of resistance. No weapons. They were farmers, traders, children. They had no chance. She searched every corner, every hidden spot. Her hands were black with soot, her lungs full of dust. She found her mother's necklace near the well. She never found Jelen. At sunset, she stood alone at the heart of what was once her home. Then she saw a flicker of blue from a shattered ship that had crashed near the far ridge. A Zyraxi scout ship, small and sparking. A trail of smoke led from the wreckage. She followed it. Behind the wreck in the dirt lay a wounded Zyraxi. Its armor cracked, its weapon bent, tried to reach for its belt. She stepped on its hand. Its 4 black eyes blinked at her, not in fear, in confusion. Like she wasn't worth worrying about. Seren stared down at the alien. Then she spoke for the first time in hours. Why? No answer, it just stared. She searched its belt, found a glowing device pulsing gently in her hand. A data crystal, a tracking beacon. Didn't matter. She took it, then she picked up a broken shard of metal from the ground. The alien flinched. Seren's voice was cold. This is for Yalin. She drove the shard into its chest. The alien jerked once, then stopped moving. She sat back, breathing hard. She knew what came next. She couldn't bring anyone back, but she could make sure the galaxy knew what happened here. Where these monsters came from? She could bring the pain back to them. Seren Vale looked at the stars rising above the trees. If Earth wouldn't fight back, she would, alone, if she had to. And when she reached their world, they would remember. Veronine. The jungle was darker that night. No birds called. No wind rustled the trees.
Only the distant hum of something strange metal grinding against stone.
Seren Vale crouched beside the dead. Raxi, scout she'd killed hours before. She had built a small fire in the cave to warm her hands, but now it was dying. Her face was covered in soot. Her eyes had not blinked in minutes. The alien's body hadn't moved, but its ship still blinked with a weak blue pulse. Something inside was alive. Seren stared at the glowing crystal she'd taken from the alien's belt. It felt warm. Alive. She didn't know what it was, but she had seen the alien reach for it before dying. That meant it was important. It might be a signal or data. Maybe it held answers. She slipped it into her pack and stood up. The shipwreck was 50 paces ahead, crashed between a wall of roots and a boulder. Smoke hissed from its side. Metal groaned and popped. She moved closer. The ship's lights pulsed again. It's like a heartbeat slowing down. Seren drew her knife. Inside the ship, it was quiet. Most of the tech was fried, but the cockpit was intact. Glowing glyphs and readable alien symbols still blinked on the panel. A cracked screen showed a map of some kind. Star charts, routes. She touched one. It expanded lines stretched from a red dot to 5 others. One of them blinked in gold. Her eyes narrowed. The red dot had a label. X Prime? Maybe a homeworld? The blinking gold one had a name too. V-9.Veyra-9. Her planet, her village. She clenched her fists. This ship was part of the attack. Now she had its map, its routes, its secrets. She stepped back and grabbed a metal bar from the wreckage, then began tearing open a side panel. She didn't care what the tech was. She wanted everything that looked useful. Wires, lights, anything that could help her survive. Or fight. As she ripped away the last panel, something moved behind her. Fast. She spun. Another Zyraxi scout stood. At the edge of the clearing, weapon raised. It must have tracked the crash. Its gun made a high-pitched sound charging. Seren didn't think. She threw the metal bar straight at its head. It hit. The alien stumbled. She rushed in, ducked under its swipe, and jammed her knife into the soft gap under its arm. The alien shrieked a horrible bone-cracking sound and dropped the gun. They struggled. It was strong. Too strong, it threw her back. She hit the ground hard. As it raised its weapon again, Seren grabbed the alien gun from the dead one nearby. She didn't know how to use it, but she didn't need to. She aimed, pulled the trigger, and hoped. The gun fired a blue bolt. The scout dropped like a stone. Silence. Her hands shook 2 down. She dropped the gun and sat back, breathing fast. Her heart felt like it would tear out of her chest. She had never killed anything before today. Now she'd killed two, and she was just getting started. She searched the new body. More tech, another beacon. A patch on the armor showed an odd symbol like an eye with fire around it. Some kind of unit marking. She took everything she could carry. Back in the cave, she dumped the gear in a pile and stared at it. She had no training. Right. But now, she had alien tech, alien weapons, and their attack plans. She could wait for Earth Command, or she could go now. She didn't sleep that night. By morning, she had built a transmitter from the alien comms gear. It was messy, at wires everywhere. Sparks flew when she connected power from a solar cell. But it worked. The screen blinked green. The signal was open. She sat in front of it and sent a message in plain, broken code. This is Veronine, colony destroyed. No survivors, but me. They came without warning. They killed everyone. I have a map. I know where they are going next. I will not wait. I am going after them. My name is Seren Vale. You don't need to come. I'm not asking permission. She paused. Then, added one more line. I will make them remember us. She sent it. The screen blinked. Its message sent. No reply. She didn't expect one. Seren packed what she needed: knife, food, beacon, alien map, the gun. She buried the Zaraxi bodies deep in the jungle, far from the cave. She didn't want any of their kind finding her again. Then she started walking. There was one place she had to go next, the crash fields, an old mining zone on the far side of the forest. Years ago, humans had landed freighters there. One of them had been too damaged to leave. Its engine still held a working drive core. She didn't want to build a ship. She wanted to steal one. It took her 3 days to get there. Along the way, she saw no more ships in the sky, no more invaders, just silence. The Ziraxi had come, killed, and left like nothing had ever mattered. But it mattered to her. She reached the crash fields at dusk. The broken freighter massive rusted sat between two hills. Trees had grown up around it. Vines wrapped the hole. But the entrance ramp was open. Half the light still worked. Inside, smelled like dust and old oil. She moved through the halls with her knife out, careful. But no one had been here in years. In the engine room, the core still pulsed, dim but alive. She smiled with the alien map and this ship. She could jump to the coordinates she'd seen to exprime there. Homeworld, their nest. She needed to find one more thing, a jump module. Something that could guide her through space. The freighter didn't have one, but nearby in the ruins of the old cargo base, a short-range scout ship sat, half covered in moss. She broke into it. It was still intact. She wired its navigation system into the freighter's control panel. Sparks flew. Systems lit up. The console blinked, then flashed words she hadn't seen in days. Route locked. X prime. She sat in the pilot seat. Her fingers hovered over the controls. If she pressed this, there was no going back. But there was. Nothing to go back to. She pressed it. Engines roared. The ship trembled. The ground shook as it lifted, slow and screaming. Trees bent. Dust blasted in all directions. Sky opened up. Seren Vale left Veronine behind, alone, and headed straight for war. Stars stretched across the black like cracks in glass. Seren Vale sat alone in the cockpit of the stolen freighter. The hum of the jump drive had finally stopped. The stars had stopped moving. She had arrived. It's the alien map she'd pulled from. The Ziraxi wreck blinked on the screen. She was still outside their system, hidden in a dead zone of space. But not for long. A few hours more and she would reach orbit. The screen showed 3 moons, one massive planet, one red dot X prime. Their home? Her target? She didn't feel ready. But she wasn't here for peace. She adjusted the stolen alien armor she'd found in the scout ship. It was heavy, but strong. Its surface shimmered like ink in light. With the helmet on, she could pass for a short Ziraxi from a distance, at least for a few seconds. Long enough to get close. Long enough to fight. Seren stood and walked back to the cargo bay. She checked the gear again, alien rifle, comes jammer, motion tracker. Her knife was still on her belt. She'd cleaned it, but the dried blood hadn't fully washed out. She didn't care. As she returned to the cockpit, a warning flashed red. Across the screen, long-range scan detected. Zarek's patrol ship approaching. Her heart jumped. One ship, small, fast, but armed. It hadn't seen her yet. She had two choices: hide in the asteroid field nearby, or attack first. She stared at the screen, jaw clenched.
Asked.
They didn't hesitate when they came for her village. They didn't wait. They didn't talk. She wouldn't either. Seren flipped the weapons system online. The stolen alien cannon mounted. Under the freighter powered up, the patrol ship grew closer. It hadn't changed course, still scanning, still looking. She moved the freighter slowly from the shadow of the rock ring, keeping her profile low. Then she fired. The beam ripped across. The dark, hitting the Zaraxi patrol mid-body, spun, caught off guard. Flames burst from its side, but it wasn't dead yet. The ship looped around and opened fire. Blue energy slammed into the side of her freighter. The controls sparked. The hull screamed. Seren gritted her teeth and held course. She fired again 3 shots in a row. The third one hit the engine. The patrol ship lit up like a falling star and vanished into silence. She leaned back, breathing hard. One hand was bleeding. A wire had snapped and sliced her palm. She wrapped it in a torn bit of cloth. The warning lights kept flashing, but the ship was holding together. She had one. But now they knew she was here. She pushed the ship into stealth mode, minimal power, heat masking. Then she drifted toward one of the moons. It would give her cover while she repaired the damage and planned the drop to the surface. Her body ached. Her head throbbed. She smiled. They weren't invincible. She could bleed them. She would. A few hours passed. The moon's shadow hid her from sensors, and she managed to patch the hull enough for one more run. She opened the nav screen again. Target X-Prim. Population. Unknown. Defense level. She stared at the data. It wasn't a city. It was a fortress. A planet-sized war nest. Towers of dark steel. Energy grids. Orbital defenses. But Seren wasn't going for the surface battle. She had another plan. A deep maintenance tunnel connected the outer transport docks to the heart of the planet's power core. She saw it on the map. It's barely visible. Probably forgotten. That was her path. One shot. One chance, if she could get in, plant the stolen alien, explosives near their power heart, and escape. The damage would be massive. Maybe not enough to destroy them all, but enough to make them bleed. She prepped the drop pod. The freighter didn't need to survive the entry. She didn't either, but the mission did. She set the ship on a long auto-orbit, cloaked behind the dark side of the moon. The pod would fire once, silent and fast, toward the lower edge of the main defense grid. If it failed, she'd die in the vacuum. If it worked, they'd feel it. The timer counted down. 10 seconds. She stepped into the pod, held her breath. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The pod launched. Her body slammed against the seat. The stars spun, then steadied. The planet rose below her, a dark, metal-covered world lit by burning rivers of light. Massive towers pulsed red. The atmosphere was thin, artificial. The pod punched through at an angle. No alarms yet. She watched the altimeter drop. Fast. 2 seconds before impact, the thrusters fired. The pod hit the surface like a hammer, hard, but alive, smoke-filled. The air. She pushed open the hatch and rolled out, rifle raised. No movement. She was in. The tunnel entrance was 30 meters ahead, half buried under broken rocks. Supply line. No guards. They didn't expect anyone to be crazy enough to come here. She crawled through the vent, armor scraping metal. Rifle slung over her back, knocked against her shoulder. She moved slow. Every sound echoed. Every shadow looked wrong. Inside, the tunnel was dark, wet, buzzing with strange energy. She followed the map. left, down, right, through a steam chamber, past glowing tubes filled with blue liquid, pulsing like veins. This was no city. It was alive and angry. As she turned a corner, she froze. Two Zyraxi technicians were ahead, tall, quiet, moving between panels. Their backs to her. She crept forward, rifle raised. One step. Not yet. She reached into her belt, pulled out a stun charge she'd built from the crashed scout ship. Threw it, it bounced once, then burst in. White light. Both aliens dropped. She ran past, heart hammering. No alarms. She was getting close. The map said the power chamber was below this level through a vertical shaft. She climbed down, boots slipping on the wet metal. At the bottom, a door, locked. She pulled the alien panel open, rewired the circuit using her knife and a broken wire. The door slid open with a hiss. Then she saw it. The heart of Exprim. A massive sphere of pulsing light, bigger than a house spinning in midair, surrounded by cables and energy rings. If she planted the explosives right at its base, the blast would shake the planet, maybe even kill Command. She stepped forward, but a sound stopped her. Behind her footsteps, she turned fast. A Zyraxi soldier, massive gold armor for glowing eyes. It saw her. She fired. The bolt hit but barely slowed it down. It charged. She dove to the side, rolled, fired again, missed. It tackled her, slammed her into the wall. Her helmet cracked. Pain shot through her skull. She pulled her knife, stabbed upward into its throat. It didn't bleed, but it jerked, shook, then fell, dead. She gasped for air, ribs screaming. Then she crawled to the energy core. Set the charge. 30 seconds. She ran. No plan now. Just run. Back through the tunnel. Back past the stunned technicians waking up. Alarms blared. Red lights flashed. Too late. The whole place shook. She reached the launch shaft, grabbed the evac, rope hand, fired it straight up. The blast came seconds later. Fire, light, noise, and Seren Vale still alive. She had done it. She had struck their heart. And she was just getting started. Smoke filled the air as Seren Vale stumbled through the broken service shaft. Her lungs burned. Her legs barely moved. The blast had thrown her across the tunnel like a rag doll. The armor was cracked. One lens of her helmet was shattered. Every step felt like walking through fire. But she was alive. And the planet behind her was bleeding. Ow. She looked back once, just once, before reaching the emergency escape hatch. The sky above the towers of X-Prime was on fire. Great arcs of power flashed across the surface. Lights dimmed, structures cracked. Her energy heart was failing. Sirens wailed in the distance, cold and sharp like metal screaming. She had done it. She had struck the core of the enemy's home, but her mission wasn't over. Not yet. She reached the surface extraction point where she'd hidden a stolen Zyraxi recon bike before entering the tunnels. Somehow, it was still there. It's covered in ash and static dust, but untouched. She mounted the alien machine, pressed the ignition panel, and gritted her teeth as it roared to life. Now, she had to reach her freighter before they realized what had happened, but the message was clear. She wasn't just a survivor anymore. She was a threat. As she sped across the cracked surface, Zyraxi defense ships shot into the sky behind her, scrambling to find the source of the blast. Red spotlights scanned the hills. Patrols darted between towers. They were hunting her now. Seren pushed the bike harder. Her body screamed in protest, but she leaned into the wind, blood drying on her face. The stolen armor was hot. The rifle across her back rattled with every bump. She followed the route she had marked on her HUD-1 that looped wide around. The main defense lines? If she could reach the edge of their scanning range? She could activate the beacon she left near the crash fields, calling her freighter down for pickup. But nothing was simple now. Up ahead, 3 Zyraxi gunships hovered near a ridge. She slowed, ducked behind a rock outcrop, and killed the bike's power. She could wait. But a voice crackled through the stolen helmet's Xeraxi code. She didn't understand their language, but she understood the tone. They were scanning every channel, trying to lock onto her frequency. She reached for her pulse jammer and activated it. A short burst, just enough to block them for a few minutes. Then she moved. She sprinted uphill, rifle ready. She had to pass unseen. As she climbed, her foot slipped on loose gravel. She fell forward just as a searchlight swept the ridge. It passed right over her. She froze. No shots, no alarms. Was still invisible. She crawled the rest of the way to the top, then rolled down the far side and ran into a valley filled with shattered drones and burned metal. Old battlefield scars, maybe from another enemy. She didn't care who lost here before. Today she had one goal: escape. At the far end of the valley, a blinking red light marked the spot, her emergency beacon. She activated it. Above, far in the black sky, her stolen freighter shifted out of orbit and began to descend. It was working. She smiled for the first time in hours. But the smile faded fast. A deafening roar echoed across the valley. Something was coming, big. She turned and saw a Iton armored crawler, a Xeraxi war beast, half machine, half creature. With 10 legs and a tower of weapons rising from its back, soldiers rode on top, scanning the ground. They had tracked her here. No time to hide. She aimed her rifle and fired once, hitting the pilot post. The crawler jerked. The soldiers opened fire. Seren ran. Dolts of blue plasma exploded around her. Dirt flew, rocks shattered. The freighter was coming in fast, landing gear down back. Ramp opening midair. She reached it just as a bolt grazed her side. She screamed, but didn't stop. She leaped into the ship, slammed her hand on the ramp control. It closed with a hiss. The crawler fired again. One shot clipped the freighter's wing, but it was too late. The engines roared. The ship blasted upward, leaving smoke and fire behind. Seren collapsed in the cockpit, gasping for breath. She had made it. Her vision blurred. Her arm was bleeding badly. Her ribs ached. But she was alive. The aliens knew her name now. 12 hours later, she floated in orbit, quiet and hidden in a debris field above a dead moon. She'd patched her wounds, bandaged her arm, repaired her suit. Now she sat in front of the comms console, playing back intercepted transmissions. Xeraxi command was in chaos. Fragments of words translated through the stolen tech flashed across the screen. Unknown saboteur, ... possible human. Energy core compromised, ... Emergency lockdown on X Prime. She smiled. They were scared. They should be. She started typing another message. This time it wasn't a call for help. It was a warning. To Earth Command, I've struck the heart of the Xeraxi homeworld. I'm not asking for backup. I don't need permission. But you need to understand this war has already started. Not going to stop. Not until every colony is safe. Not until they pay for Veronine. She paused, then added one more line. Stand with me or stay silent. Either why. Not coming home until the Xeraxi are finished. She hit send, then leaned back in the seat. Suddenly the console beeped. A reply. It wasn't from Earth. It was from a coded relay. She didn't recognize. The message was short. We saw what you did. We've been waiting for someone like you. Coordinates incoming. We want to help. Seren narrowed her eyes. Who were they? She checked the sender tag. Encrypted. Masked. Could be human. Could be someone else. But they had seen her. They knew her mission. And they wanted to join the fight. She stared at the new coordinates blinking on the screen. Another system? Another chance. Another war waiting to happen. She grinned. Let them come. She had started this alone. But now the galaxy was listening. The stars looked different here. Colder, sharper, the kind that didn't blink. Seren Vale stood in the middle of her freighter's small command deck, staring at the coordinates that had brought her across 2 jumps and 3 black zones. The message had come through clean. We saw what you did. Coordinates incoming. We want to help. Now she was here. And there was nothing. No ships. No stations. Just a dead rock spinning in orbit around a fading red star. Her fingers. hovered above the scanner panel. Maybe it was a trap. Maybe it was bait. Or maybe, just maybe, she wasn't the only one out here who wanted to make the Zeraxi bleed. A soft ping interrupted her thoughts. Something was decloaking. She snapped to full alert, grabbing her rifle and locking her helmet on.
Outside the
window, the dark began to move. A ship long, flat, and shaped like a blade flickered into view. Its hull shimmered as the cloaking field dropped. It wasn't Zeraxi. The metal was human-built. But the paint was stripped. No flags. No markings? Pirates? Mercenaries? A lost Earth unit? A voice came through her, comes crackly but clear. This is the Shadow Line. Identify yourself human. Seren paused, then replied, steady and sharp, Seren Vale. From Varanine, the one who blew your enemy's power grid off their throne world. Who's asking? Silence. Then a laugh. Low. Human. Welcome aboard, Vale. Docking port 3. Let's talk. The freighter clamped onto the blade ship's side. As the doors hissed open, she held her rifle ready. The docking hall was dim, lit by blue strips that pulsed with each heartbeat of the ship's systems. 3 figures waited at the end. 2 were armored, weapons slung but not raised. The third stepped forward, helmet off. A woman, late 40s maybe, sharp eyes, battle scars. Captain Rima Das, she said. We're not Earth Command. We're not rebels either. We're what's left when Earth ignores the screams and leaves colonies like yours to die. Seren stared. What did you find me? You've got ears in deep space. And you weren't exactly subtle. That blast on X-Prime? Whole sectors saw the power spike. We picked up your message minutes after it hit open space. Rima stepped closer. You declared war, Vale, and you're not the only one who wants. And Seren lowered her weapon slightly. You've fought them before? Rima nodded. Lost. Escaped. The Zeraxi don't negotiate. But they're not gods. You proved that? They walked through the ship, past engineers in patched suits, fighters loading crates, medics treating wounded. The ship wasn't big, but it was alive. Ready? How many of you? Seren asked. Just this crew, Rima said, but we've got friends. Hidden fleets. Colonists turned soldiers. Smugglers who saw their worlds turn to ash. We've been waiting for a reason to unite. You gave us one. They stopped at a round table in the command center. A star map lit up the surface. We want to hit them where it hurts next, Rima said. But not with bombs. With truth. Seren frowned. No, Rima said. No, Rima started. But it starts revolutions. She tapped the screen. A video played. Grainy footage of Seren walking through the ruins of her village. Children burned. Families gone. Then, her message, her warning, her war cry. You sent this to Earth Command, Rima said. But it didn't. Just go there. Zeraxi got hacked. Broadcasts got leaked. Other species picked it up too. And now the Zeraxi are panicking. Seren leaned in. What are you saying? Rima looked her dead in the eye. I'm saying the galaxy just saw a human fight back alone and win. If we spread that message, show them who the Zeraxi really are, others will rise. Even some Zeraxi. Not all of them want this war. Seren blinked. You think they'll rebel against their own kind? We've seen signs. Sabotage patrols. Ship's gone dark. There's a crack forming. Seren stayed quiet for a moment, then nodded. So what's next? Rima grinned. We sneak into one of their outposts, not just to blow it up, but to hijack their command broadcast. Send your message, your face, your voice, into every corner of their empire. Seren stepped back. Let them see the girl who turned their homeworld into smoke, Rima said. Let them know you're coming. Seren's eyes narrowed. Then let's give them a reason to be afraid. 3 days later, the plan was in motion. They had chosen a Zeraxi relay outpost, small but central. Located on a hollow moon orbiting a mining planet was a command node linking dozens of systems. If they could hijack it, they could send any message they wanted straight into the heart of Zeraxi space. But the station was heavily guarded. They couldn't fly in. So they'd go underground, Seren Rima, and to Fighters Kalan. And Mara would breach the station through its waste tunnels. The shadow line would wait in stealth orbit. If they weren't out in 1 hour, they'd be considered dead. Simple, stupid, perfect. As they floated down in a stealth pod toward the moon's night side, Seren tightened her helmet and checked her weapons. Kalan leaned over. You sure? You want to be the face of this, Zeraxi? Don't forget. Seren didn't look at him. I don't want them to forget. The pod touched down in a crater filled with shadow. They moved fast, cutting through the service hatch, slipping into the dark tunnels below the station. Inside, the air smelled like rust and steam. Red pipes lined the walls. Warning lights blinked. No alarms yet. Step by step, they reached the central comms room. Mara cracked the terminal. Rima slipped the data crystal in the one holding Seren. Message, spliced and translated into Zeraxi language. As the signal uploaded, Seren stood in front of the broadcast camera. The light blinked green. She spoke slowly, clearly. This is Seren Vale. I am human. I lived on Vera 9 before you destroyed it. She paused. You came to kill, to erase, but I'm still here. Her voice grew sharper. You took my world, I took your power. I'm not alone anymore. And we are coming. The camera blinked. Upload complete, and the lights went red. Alarms blared. Zeraxi soldiers swarmed from the side hall 6, maybe more. Seren raised her rifle and fired. The fight was fast and brutal. 2 aliens dropped in seconds. Kalan took a shot to the chest. He didn't rise again. Rima screamed and dragged Mara to the evac tunnel. Seren held the rear. Blaster fire sizzled past her helmet. She dove, rolled, and fired again, taking out one more. The last 3 Zeraxi turned and fled. They knew now. They knew who she was. As the group reached the surface and the shadow line pulled them aboard, Seren collapsed on the ramp, breathing smoke and blood. But even as the ship flew into darkness, she could feel it. Her message was out there now, echoing through the stars. And Zeraxi commanders everywhere were starting to panic. The silence didn't last long. Within 2 days of the transmission, half the known systems under Zeraxi control lit up with activity. Patrol routes changed. Civilian transports were grounded. Internal comms were locked down, but it was too late. The message had spread like wildfire, not just to humans, not just to allies, to the Zeraxi themselves. On the command deck of the Shadow Line, Seren Vale watched in silence as intercepted footage played across the hologrid grainy but clear. A riot on a Zeraxi mining colony, their own workers throwing tools at guards, a warship gone dark mid-patrol, tire squads refusing orders. Cracks in the Empire, and she had made them. Rima stood beside her, arms folded. They called you a disease in their internal messages. A contagion of thought. Seren didn't flinch. They're right. You proud of that? Seren's eyes narrowed. No, she said. I'm not a disease. I'm the cure. Rima let out a sharp breath and nodded. We've got a new problem, she added. They're calling for a full lockdown of Sector 9. That includes 3 human colonies. If they seal it, we lose access to trade, rescue paths, and rebel contacts. Seren turned. Then we stop them. It's not that simple. They've brought in a warship. Not a scout, not a patrol boat, full carrier. What's its name? Rima tapped the console. Translation is rough, but close as we can tell. The Cleansing Flame. Seren's jaw clenched. I'm going to burn. It too, Ash. 3 hours later, Cleansing Flame came into view. It was massive, a floating city of death 1/2 mile long, built like a dagger with wings, plasma cores on both sides, fighter bays running down its spine. Seren stood in the stealth shuttle. With Mara and a new recruit, Tolan former Earth Navy discharged for disobeying orders. You ever take down a carrier? He asked, gripping his belt. No, Seren said. You? Nope, she nodded. Then today's a good day to start. They weren't going to destroy it with firepower. That would take a fleet they didn't have. The plan was surgical, Slip into the launch bay using false Zyraxi tags. Get to the central targeting AI and reprogram it to make the warship target its own fleet. A suicide move, but only for the carrier. The shuttle dipped under the radar net and slipped into the docking bay with 3 other supply ships. Nobody stopped them. They wore stolen armor's Araxi design, painted and chipped to match patrol units. Helmets stayed on. Heads down, Toland whispered through the internal comms. I count 12 guards. No lookouts. They're nervous. Seren could feel it too. The station buzzed with tension. The Zaraxi weren't just responding to orders. They were afraid. Each other. Of whispers of her, they moved fast through the service deck, passing crews working in silence. Down a hallway lit by flickering lights. Up a maintenance shaft. At last, they reached the command core guarded by 2 elite sentries in gold-trimmed armor. Seren held up a stolen authorization crystal. The first guard scanned it, nodded. Then the second guard hesitated. Seren's hand moved. She grabbed the shock baton from her belt and rammed it into the alien's throat. The others moved in, instantly blasters out. 2 shots. 2 bodies down, no alarms. They dragged the corpses into a vent shaft and slipped into the command room. The AI core pulsed with purple light-living code housed inside a floating cube, suspended above a gravity ring. Alien glyphs hovered in the air. Moving with logic only machines could read, Mara connected the human override tool. It's built from a fusion of stolen tech and cracked Zyraxi code. It worked barely a. Red screen flashed, greater than select target, Siren's hand. Hovered, then she found it. Fleet ID, Arkan Division, Task Force. 9. The same fleet guarding sector. 9. The same fleet preparing to cut off human colonies. She selected it, greater than. Garm, new hostile target for cleansing flame. Are we sure about? This, Mara asked. Seren didn't answer. Toland did. She's already sure. You heard the speech? She's their plague now. Seren pressed the final key. The light inside the AI cube shifted. Calm blue turned to deep red, a hum built in the walls around. Them, low, steady, dangerous. The warship was waking up to destroy its own. They turned to leave, but the door exploded. 4 Zaraxi guards stormed in, rifles raised. Mira dove left. Toland returned fire. Seren rolled behind a pillar and opened up with her stolen. Rifle blue bolts screamed through the air. 1 guard dropped, then another. But Toland caught a hit to the chest. His armor shattered. He went down. Hard, Mara screamed. Seren dragged him behind cover, eyes wild. He coughed blood. Go, he whispered. Finish it. The 2 remaining guards rushed them, but Seren rushed back. She jammed her blade into one's leg and fired point blank into its chest. The last tried to flee, but Mara cut it down. They didn't stop to check the bodies. They ran. Sirens blared. The deck shook. The cleansing flame was firing at its own. As they sprinted toward the shuttle, flames erupted outside the ship's port windows. Massive blasts lit the sky. Fighter squadrons turned mid-flight, some fighting, some fleeing. The rebellion had begun. They reached the bay. Toland didn't make it, but Seren did. She stood in the shuttle door as they blasted off, staring at the chaos behind them. The mighty Zaraxi warship, the symbol of their fear and power, was turning on itself, consumed from within. Her message wasn't just words now, it was fire. She whispered under her breath, as the stars swallowed the flames behind. Let the galaxy burn, till they know we won't be silent again. The shadow line drifted in deep orbit, silent and cloaked, as the fires of war burned across the edge of Zyroxi space. Seren Vale stood in the ship's observation bay. Staring at the storm she had unleashed, entire patrol routes had collapsed. Zaraxi fleets were scattering, confused and splintered. Eternal rebellions, whispered defections. False alarms, chaos had spread like infection. She had done it, but it wasn't enough. Not yet. Behind her, Captain Rima entered quietly. Her boots echoed faintly on the steel floor. You look like someone who just broke the galaxy, she said. I bent it, Seren replied. It's not broken yet. Rima walked to the glass. We just intercepted a new transmission from Zeraxi High Command. They're regrouping. They're calling it a cleansing operation. Full purge of all humans within their territory, civilian or not. Seren didn't blink. Then we finish it before they can. Rima's eyes narrowed. You've got a plan. I want to. Hit the source. The planet they never talk about. It's the one no maps show. The one where they decide everything. You're talking about Vasker? Seren nodded. Rima shook her head. That place is suicide. Even Earth's intelligence never got near it. It's where their leadership lives. The top caste. It's the ones who ordered your village wiped out. You go there, and they'll vaporize your ship before you cross orbit. Seren turned to her. Then I'll go where they don't expect me. Vasker was the darkest world in Zeraxi. Records. Hidden. Protected. Armored. Surrounded by mines, satellites, warships, and cloaking fields. But Seren had something they did. Defectors. Weeks ago, our message had reached a small group of Zeraxi, rebel scientists, thinkers, and outcasts, tired of war. They didn't call themselves allies, but they were willing to help. They knew how to sneak someone in. Rima paced the briefing room while Seren loaded her gear. This isn't revenge anymore, Rima said. This is personal. It was always personal, Seren replied, zipping her armor. But now it's strategy. Era handed her a short combat knife, human-made, but engraved with a Zeraxi sigil. They'll recognize that symbol, Mara said. They'll think you're one of them. Until it's too late. Seren took the blade. Good. The infiltration pod was barely bigger than a coffin. It would drop her in the upper layers. A Vosker's storm-filled atmosphere masked by debris. Keen, till she reached the industrial underlayer, a toxic ring of slave labor camps and refineries. From there, the plan was simple. Get to the central tower, find the high caste, and make them hear her. Not through broadcasts, but face to face. The descent was brutal. Wind screamed. Static fried her radar. The pod shook so violently it felt like her bones might break, but it held. When the pod slammed into the surface, the force crushed steel and carved a crater in a slag field the size of a city. Seren crawled out into a world. Built on ash, Vosker's surface was black rock, and molten rivers refineries roared in the distance like hungry beasts. Giant walker machines stalked the horizon. Dragging cables and cannons behind them, she moved fast, sticking to shadows, hiding her human shape beneath stolen Zeraxi armor. The sigil blade hung at her side. Her breathing slowed. Her heartbeat was calm. She wasn't afraid anymore. She was fire. 2 hours later, she found the entrance to the lift tower, a mile-high structure of bone-colored stone and energy veins that pulsed up toward the clouds. This was it. The spire that held the Zeraxi rulers. The Ones. Untouched by the blood they spilled, she stepped into the access hall. Alarms blared. They'd spotted her. Guards rushed in aid of them. Tall, armed, fast. Seren didn't run. She charged the first. Fell to a clean shot to the chest. Second lost an arm to her blade. The rest scattered when her plasma grenade cracked the floor in half. She didn't stop up the lift. Up the spiral halls of the tower. Through command floors, past glowing vats of strange liquid, where Zeraxi minds were fused into machines. She reached the throne room. It was quiet. A wide chamber of black stone, floating above a pit of light. In the center stood the high caste 3 beings draped in bioarmor, faces hidden, energy rings hovering behind them like halos. You are the one they speak of, the central figure said, voice like a broken radio. Seren. Didn't move. I am Seren Vale of Veranine, the one you tried to erase. You seek revenge, another said. This is your moment. She stepped forward. No, I seek justice. Revenge ends with blood. Justice ends with truth. Think truth matters to us? The third hissed. Seren pulled the data drive from her belt. It contained everything. The evidence of their war crimes. The footage from the outposts, the testimonies of defectors, the hacked orders from their generals. She slammed it into their control terminal. Screens lit up. .xira. She everywhere across ships. Bases even within this tower began receiving the same message. Their secrets exposed. Their power questioned. The High Caste stared in silence. "You will die here," one said coldly. Seren pulled her blade. "Then I'll die making sure your own kind tears you apart." They attacked. She fought. 1-on-1 would have been suicide. 3-on-1. But Seren was fast, furious, focused. She stabbed the first ruler through the throat as it lunged. Took a burn to the shoulder. Rolled under a blast. Shot the second through the eye. The third caught her with a blow to the ribs, but she drove her blade up into its mouth and twisted until it fell. All 3 rulers collapsed, and so did she, bleeding, breathing smoke as the tower lights failed and distant alarms rang out. She activated her beacon. The shadow line had been waiting in orbit, cloaked just beyond the defense grid. Now it moved in. Gunfire, chaos, evac team inbound. But Seren smiled, because this time she hadn't just fought back. She'd walked into the heart of their empire and burned the truth into their minds forever. Smoke still clung to Seren's armor as the shadow line pulled her from the ruins of the tower. She was barely conscious. Blood soaked her left side. Her ribs were broken. Her arm didn't respond. But her eyes stayed locked on the Skydark and cracked like the world was finally showing its true face. Mara shouted orders over comes. Rima pulled Seren into the medbay herself, brushing off help. "You made it," Rima said softly. Seren blinked. "No, we made it." Outside the ship's windows, Vasker burned. Not from orbital fire, but from within. Uprisings had begun in the factories, laborers refusing orders, soldiers throwing down their weapons, internal systems failing. The Empire was unraveling fast. The truth had done more damage than bombs ever could. Seren lay in the medbay, strapped to the gurney, her body failing, but her spirit clear. "Are the transmissions still going out?" she asked. Mara nodded. "We looped your data into every relay we could, planet-side and off-world. Even deep space traders are getting it." "Good," Seren whispered. "Let them see what's behind the mask." Rima leaned closer. "And what about you? What happens after all this?" Seren stared at the ceiling. Images flashed in her mind, her mother's hands pulling her to safety in a burning village. The terrified eyes of survivors in cargo holds, the screams of rebels dying to hold a corridor just a minute longer. "I rest," she said quietly. But rest wouldn't come yet. In the days that followed, the galaxy shifted. Vasker fell into chaos. The High Caste was gone. Local governors scrambled to seize control, but their fleets turned against each other. Civil war began to bloom across Cyraxi space. One by one, human colonies reported that patrol ships had vanished. Borders loosened, blockades lifted. For the first time in years, Earth's outer worlds saw the stars without fear. Then came the message, a single line bouncing across comm channels everywhere, from smuggler beacons to official government feeds. "I am Seren Vale of Veranine. They destroyed my village, so I destroyed their throne." The message ended with a brief visual grainy. Footage of Seren, wounded and covered in ash, standing in the ruined throne room of Vasker with her blade in hand. Nothing more, nothing less. 3 weeks later, the shadow line touched down on Veranine. What was once a field of craters and burned trees had begun to bloom again. Grass pushed through the ash. Wildflowers had returned. Nature was reclaiming what war had taken. Seren stepped out of the ship slowly. Her wounds were healing, but not all of them could be stitched. A child ran toward her girl with bright eyes and dirt on her knees. She didn't say anything. She just handed Seren a flower, smiled, knelt down and took it, her fingers shaking slightly. Behind her, the Shadowline crew stood in silence. Rima, Mara, the others who had fought beside her. They didn't need a speech. They had already heard the only one that mattered spoken in fire, blood, and truth. As the wind blew softly across the field, Seren looked to the sky. Peace wasn't promised, The Zeraxi weren't gone, but they were broken, and the galaxy would never forget who broke them. Not with vengeance, but with fire and voice. Because she was not just the girl from a forgotten village. She was the one who made an empire bleed, and the stars would remember her name forever.